Hi, welcome to MIM TV. I'm Charles Addison, Director of Mayoral Midlands, and today I'm joined by Beverley Nielsen, the Liberal Democrat mayoral candidate, former Regional Director of the CBI and Director of one of our patrons at Birmingham City University. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Charles. Very pleased to be here.
No problem. On the 4th of May 2017, the region will be voting on the next mayoral candidate for the area, and Beverley's going to be one of the front runners. Now, I think from our experience and speaking with our members, Beverley, you've done probably more than many of the other candidates on the business front. What does the opportunity look like? We've obviously got a big decision in front of us.
Yeah, I think it is a really important decision for the region. Clearly, we have this big change taking place in terms of some powers being devolved to the region around transport, housing, adult skills, areas where we know that your members have been struggling, and the impact that lack of investment in transport, lack of investment in skills is having on productivity is very considerable. So I think just in terms of the powers, limited as they are, they're important, but I also think that there's a big opportunity around the soft powers associated with having a strong advocate, having somebody who can speak up for the region and speak on behalf of the businesses, of the people, of the institutions across the region, and make our voice heard in a way that really hasn't happened over the last 20 or so years that I've lived and worked in the region.
I mean, your experience is second to none in this, so it would appear to be a very good fit for you. Are you looking forward to the election? Obviously, you've had one of the debates so far, and I believe the next one's at Coventry Cathedral on the 22nd of March?
That's correct, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So an opportunity to discuss sort of strategies with the other...
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing, actually, that there is... quite a bit of difference between the field now, and the sort of differences in terms of our platforms, our manifestos and policies is really beginning to open up. Clearly, I think your members will be well aware of conservative policy and inward investment and sort of a focus on open trading. That's one aspect. Then we've got the Labour candidate, of course, now moving further to the left with the Corbyn side. And we see ourselves as Lib Dems very firmly in the middle, pro-enterprise, pro-homemade and homegrown success, looking after our businesses that for the last 20 years, in my experience, have all too often been overlooked. We've had a lot of attention on the overseas implants, who often get money to support sites, purchases and building renovations and sometimes rate breaks. But try getting any of that as a homegrown business, and I think you'll find it's a bit of a struggle. So my focus is on homegrown success, whether that's our talent and keeping our talent here in the region, because we have the highest proportion of students in this region of any region across the UK, and it's extraordinary, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because everybody knows about Oxford and Cambridge, and their reputations precede them. But in terms of our region, I don't think people think of us in that way, and yet we've got this incredible young talent. And so I'm really focused on this human gold mine. How can we keep them here and prepare them for the tremendous opportunities in business that are really looking us in the face at the moment as we embrace electric vehicles, renewables, battery technologies, continue, of course, to push ahead in terms of automotive, aerospace and the many aspects of component manufacturing across the West Midlands.
I mean, because obviously you've been out to quite a few manufacturing businesses, which is important to us because Mayoral Midlands stands to be a voice for this sector. It's been commented that your Labour equivalent candidate hasn't been as active in the business community. We heard you speak at the event at Frank Dudley last year when you launched your policy platform. Just out of interest, how did you know the company?
Well, I've been really fortunate. I've been supported in the campaign by Paul Cadman, formerly working as Chief Executive at Futura, and somebody who's really been a tremendous support to the campaign and introduced me to a lot of businesses, Frank Dudley being one, Cube Precision, another, Granlin Coatings, and a whole range of others. And it's been tremendously interesting getting out and about, meeting businesses like Frank Dudley, finding out about some of the challenges. I mean, skills shortages are mentioned all over the place. I think a lot of people, your members, will be keen to see much closer integration of education and business, and really I think getting our business people into schools, primary school level, and opening the eyes of our young children as to what career opportunities might there be for them 10 years hence. But if we have a plan for the region which is long term, is inclusive, is cross-party, agreed across parties, then we can really start to look forward 10 years hence and planning for the opportunities that we know are out there as these new technologies take hold.
I mean, do you think that we're doing enough at the moment from an education level in educating people currently? Is that something you'd like to change?
No, I think it's not so much a lack of effort. It's more somehow that the results don't meet the needs of business sufficiently well enough. And for example, I'm very conscious that I hear from the chambers that in the Black Country 66% of businesses are reporting skills shortages. So there's obviously, and yet we've got 28% youth unemployment in Wolverhampton. So it's clearly a bit of a mismatch, and it's how we address that mismatch. And I think it really is about getting into the schools early. For example, when I was at Cube Precision, they were sort of saying, years ago, the schools, used to know about the employers around, and the kids used to know about them, and they'd be into those employers, whereas these days that doesn't happen as much. Now, all sorts of reasons around that, but how can we start to get those connections working more effectively, ensuring young people have help with CV production, with work experience, critical. At Sandwell College, when I asked the young people actually there, how many of them had work experience, only 2 out of a class of 35. So it's really helping at every stage young people to be aware of what are the employable skills that matter, team working, turning up on time, being responsible and accountable for seeing a job through, all of this, and that's what we've really got to work on and help them, and equally in turn help ourselves.
We believe that the major job creation and economic wealth creation will come from owner-managed SME businesses, and obviously the region is famous for its manufacturing prowess. So, if elected, what can we see in terms of direction on the manufacturing sector?
Yeah, well, I'm really focused on manufacturing, have been for the last 20 years that I've lived and worked in the region, and done everything I can through promoting West Midlands first 20 years ago ahead of the G8 in 98, and then Midlands Excellence was a best practice initiative, and then Birmingham Made Me was the sort of initiative of a few years ago, which did some of the things that you're doing in Made in the Midlands, but in a slightly different way, design.
European focus.
Yeah, design focus perhaps, and looking across Europe most definitely. But I think that now we have a real opportunity now to bring together businesses, to learn from each other more, to compare best practice again. And so I think that there's an opportunity with manufacturing to encourage the networking further. One really interesting initiative that Warwick Manufacturing Group came up with that I think has got legs still to sort of push ahead again with is the West Midlands Collaborative Commerce Marketplace.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I sort of feel that was a great initiative in terms of encouraging virtual enterprise networks, pumping procurement offers and tenders down the network, and then trying to bundle together companies. Now, it was a very technical offer, but what if we could make it much more accessible, and help companies to use a tool like that to work together to map our supply chains, because we still haven't mapped very much beyond tier 1 and 2, so we don't really know what, how much expertise we have out there for automotive. How much can we continue to onshore, which is obviously critical now as we look at post-Brexit opportunities. So those would be my thoughts.
And we still see a lot of companies even today who don't seem to know who else is on their own industrial estate. So
no, absolutely.
I think a lot of signposting that is important.
I was speaking with a company only a week or so ago, and they were telling me they'd got their first automotive order. They were a very fine pressings business, and they were about tier 3, 4, and nobody knew really they were there. So I think there's still big opportunities.
I mean, we've looked at some of the interviews and the comments so far. We're very much seeing your campaign as that being a champion of change. Manufacturing to one side, some of the other things that we've talked about hampering the sector, we've talked about skills. You've mentioned this cost of the underperformance of skills into the area of being to the tune of 8 trillion, which is obviously a tremendous disadvantage, and we've talked about some of the things, but infrastructure as well.
Yeah,
getting across the region
clearly
can be a difficult
big
one.
challenge. Yes, a big challenge, far too big a challenge, far too little investment in our region. For the last 20 years that I've worked here, I was trying to think back as to when I could think of big investment coming into the region.
Because it's dominated the debates so far. So is this the key dividing issue, do you think, or one of? Is it all
No,
one of them?
I think it's more about the focus on growing our own success. I think we do all think that we need more investment in infrastructure. So I think on that area there would be a greater degree of consensus. But I think it's how we grow our economy where the differences are appearing. I'm interested in investing in our own businesses, in growing them, in launching an innovation fund, in launching a West Midlands bank, in having long-term funding available. And I'm interested in growing our own success by ensuring the talent that we have here stays and works with our businesses as much as possible, because there's lots of evidence around the world to show that the places that have the best talent and the most graduates, actually, as simple as this, in their economy, fitted to and meeting the needs of their businesses are the most successful. If we can hold on to our talent, stop the brain drain, create a place that they actually want to live, work, and in time have their own families and then raise them here, recycling money around our economy at every stage, the multiplier impact of that is very considerable, and that is the model that I'm looking to really build for this region. And there are case studies around the world there in terms of what's happened elsewhere. We've got to look at quality of life measures more. GVA alone is not enough. Clearly, a lot of people have been excluded from current economic models. We have too much poverty. We have to include the people living here in wealth creation, bring them with us, ensure their skills are appropriate, whether it's access level skills or higher level skills. But this all requires us looking at our place, understanding what it is that our USPs, if I can put it like that, our distinctive strengths and features of our manufacturing economy and our wider productive economy, and then ensure that we have what we need to grow that economy. I think we need a vision for the future, and for me that vision for the future is how do we become top in the world in electric vehicles, in driverless vehicles, in renewables, in battery power, in energy storage, in local energy production. And if we did that, we could be we'd start 15 year hence and where we want to be, and then build, work backwards on what do we have to do to get there. And that's the opportunity that I think we have in front of us with devolution. I think it is a tremendous opportunity. I really hope that all your members go out and embrace this opportunity and urge their employees to vote as well on May the 4th.
Yeah, it's a crucial date. I mean, one thing we've liked about your campaign throughout is how well evidenced it is. I mean, I reference the book you've authored on redesigning manufacturing.
Yes.
And one of the stats within it, which we even use in our meetings, is the fact that we believe you correctly value the manufacturing sector at a far higher contribution to the regional output than government does. And I think that's one thing that is particularly important. I mean, that's kind of why you could be perceived to be more of the manufacturing champion.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent, as I've said, an awful lot of time working in manufacturing. I was a director of the FTSE 250 business, ARGA range master, sort of rooted back, manufacturing foundry in Coalbrookdale, right rooted back to Abraham Darby in 1707 and the birth of the first industrial revolution. It's very close to my heart, but I think it's often completely underrated through the way we're measuring GVA and the way the standard industrial codes work and are assessed. And I think there's a growing recognition that these just aren't adequate to recognising the full contribution. If you take what's happened with outsourcing into account, if you take into account servitisation, the outsourcing of the services that used to be part of manufacturing and now sit outside of manufacturing, and pull all that into account, then I'm suggesting it's well over 30% in terms of the secondary impact of manufacturing. But if you then take into account all the distribution and logistics that is required to move all of our goods around, you get to well over 50% of our economy. And I think the multiplier effect of that is very important. How do we source locally, procure locally? I think we could do so much more if we really thought about our procurement and building apprentices into procurement contracts and training the skills for the future. And with the levy, of course, now we have an opportunity which we must make the most of, otherwise it is simply just a tax on us.
No, that's fantastic, Beverley. I mean, very much the manufacturing champion by the sound of it. I think the key thing is here on the 4th of May to be present, to speak up. But there's a concern that there could be potentially low attendance on the vote, so it's very important that businesses educate their workforces, as you say, to the opportunities. But no, Beverley Nielsen, thank you very much, Liberal Democrat candidate, and we wish you all the luck on 4th of May.
Thank you very much, Charles. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
If you'd like to focus and feature on MIM TV in future, simply contact the team as we continue our series in meeting Britain's makers.